What is up, everybody? Today is a review video, a little bit delayed, but it's the entire month of April. Then over $90,000 I brought in gross rents, and what went wrong. A lot went wrong. Just in one bill alone, I owed over $7,000 for a sewer lateral that exploded and left a terrible mess inside the property. And that's just to get it back functional, right? $7,000 to get the property operating as it's supposed to be, doesn't generate any extra rent. I'm never going to get that money back. And that's just part of the game that we're playing, right? Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. And I was definitely the nail last month. So we brought in over $90,000, our highest grossing month yet, and this month will top that. And we brought in a good amount of money, but we had a lot of expenses. And obviously, I'm going to go through all the rent rolls, show you guys what that looks like. And really, actually, instead of the rent rolls, I'm going to focus this month on just the income and expenses per property. The rent rolls don't really change that much. You know, we have people move in and out from time to time. Right now, we're 116 out of 118 units full. So month to month, you might see variations in rent. We might have $25, $50 rent increases from time to time, but for the most part, it's pretty stable. So I'm going to leave those out so that way we can kind of condense the review so you guys can just get the meat and potatoes, as they say. It's just the income, the expenses, how the properties performed. We had a lot of expenses last month, including that beautiful sewer lateral that blew up, but that's part of the play in the game. And this month, obviously, hopefully, will be better, but you just never know. And there was a moment in time where I thought I had actually two of those go. I had texts and emails saying that actually I might be dealing with this twice. Thinking about that was a little stressful because that's 14 grand out of the 90 grand that we brought in just in two sewer laterals. But it turned out it was just one. Still not ideal. Still really ate into any profits or any. I mean, we couldn't even pay our bills last month as far as the income goes. Obviously, we have money saved up to pull from when we need to, but if we were just dependent on last month's income, the LLC that was affected by that brought in like $2,000 or $1,500 or something just not really useful given the amount of properties that are in that LLC. So this is a great case study with me as the example as to how these things go wrong. So you guys can try to learn from it a little bit, maybe avoid some of these issues for yourself. The next video after this is going to be a portfolio review, a quick 5-minute video about what we've got, what it's worth, and kind of how things are moving within the portfolio. And you can see it basically in a giant Excel spreadsheet that shows every property, every loan, when they come mature, our rates, how much income's coming in, etc. So with all that being said, we're going to jump to my computer. We're going to rip through all of the income and expenses for the properties this month, and then we'll kind of just build from there. I appreciate you guys watching as always. And if you are willing to leave a comment or even subscribe, I truly appreciate it. It means the world to me, and I love interacting in the comments. So we'll talk to you soon. See ya. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my computer. Here is a review of April 2026, starting with 35 properties in our biggest LLC, 36,000 in, 10,000 out, 25,000 distributions. Now, again, this number doesn't always correlate because the cash out number, I don't know that this number actually corresponds because there's properties that have cash out that are then covered by other properties, and so the numbers can get kind of wonky. But these are rough numbers, but the sheets themselves that show what happened are all accurate. And so we'll start with this one: a single family that brought 765 in. It had cleaning out the gutters, management fees, a transfer to help out another property, and then a distribution of 120. So in this property, we did not get the full rent, but somehow we were able to cover our expenses and then still transfer to another property to help, and only took in 120. So imagine that this was just your only property. You wouldn't have this transfer, but you would have only brought in 566 for the month. And that's not enough to cover your bills, more than likely. That's definitely not enough to cover, more than likely, your mortgage, taxes together. Maybe it will cover the mortgage and you can figure out the taxes later. But you can see with one property, you can kind of be at risk because stuff can happen. And if you have one single family, they move out, you have zero income. If you have a furnace blow up, etc. I mean, you can name a million different things that could happen. And that's why strength in numbers is so key. So here's North Holton. This is a duplex, 1910 management fees, late fees, which we split up. We got $15 in late fees. I get half, management gets half. Transfers to 7 to help it out, and owner payment of $532. Bobolink, $895, $450, $150, $100, $250. We had some repairs for a hole in the soffit. We had a door set or a door handle set. an eviction that was getting filed, you can see where that's coming from. This person's paying February, they're paying March, and they're barely chipping away at March. And now this is April, and now we're into May. So people get behind, they can't catch back up, and it turns into one of those things that, how long do you let this go? You want to be a nice person. You don't want to let them, get them. You don't want to, make it a charity necessarily, but you also don't want to be, just cold-hearted and not take care of people. But it's like, well, how far do you let it go? And in this case, we decided that, this is as far as it can go. You can only let people go a couple months because it's very hard for them to get caught back up. St. Paul, we brought in $2,600, $502 for the water bill. This is a 3-family. For perspective, quarterly water bill is about $500. For a duplex, I plan about $400. This one's a little light, but we'll see what it shapes up to be throughout the year. Management fees, late fee, and a distribution of $1,807. Mount Vernon brought in $1,800. We had a water bill. This is a 3-family as well, so the water bill is pretty light for being a 3-family. Management fees and a distribution. North First, this is a duplex, and we had $1,449 come in. We had repairs for kitchen faucet and supply lines, management fee and a distribution. North R. Phillips, we had $1,550 come in. We had management fees and distribution. This is what I dream of every single month. If every property did this forever, this would be the easiest game in town, but they don't do that, so that's why it's not easy, right? North Third, money came in. We had pest control, we had damaged siding. Both of these are related to a mouse problem that we've been having at this property, and so we're addressing that. We had some plumbing, and then we had management fees, split up the late fee, and then we took a distribution. North 6th, $1,495 is what we took in. Management fees and an owner distribution of $1,375. Again, if this is your only single family, life's not so bad. But you can see that I've had others that did not do so well. So you got to be able to balance it out and obviously manage it correctly. My manager literally saves my life. So 76, brought in money, took a management fee, took a distribution, no big deal. And the key thing with these single families the reason I love them so much is our expenses are at least 5%, maybe 10% lower depending on the house, because we're not paying for the water bill, we're not paying for utilities. And these days that stuff matters. When in a high interest environment where numbers are getting squeezed more than ever, I think that it matters to have stuff that's as lean as possible. And it doesn't get much more lean than this. I mean, look at this. Without the management fee, we would have brought in basically every dollar that the property took in, which is very impressive, in my opinion. North 14th, rent came in, management fees came out, we split up the late fee, and we took a distribution. That's all you can ever ask for. This is a duplex. No, sorry, this is a single family. And so that one did really well too. And these are all part of the package that we bought last year. If you recall, if you can remember any of the street names, obviously I've got this stuff redacted, but if you can remember the street names, you'll remember that I bought these as a package and they were unstable. We kind of tried to stabilize them, and here's another one. Now this one didn't do as hot, but same idea. $1,495 came in, single family house. Bunch of issues, a no heat call, which resulted in a replaced heat exchanger. We had disassembled the drain and the strainer. We had kitchen sink pipes, and that stuff happens. I mean, you love to see this as an owner, right? Kitchen sink pipes came loose, water leaking everywhere under the sink. I mean, just a dream come true. But that's what happens. People use this stuff. Over time it wears down. It needs to be adjusted. It needs to be resealed. It needs to be replaced. Management fees, distribution of only $525. So if this is your only single family, again, you got beat down this month. But, what are you going to do? HVAC, when something like this happens, are you just not going to replace the heat exchanger and let people freeze? Obviously not. So 7th Street brought in a bunch of nothing because this was a vacant property that we had to reset. So you can see we had owner held security deposits. We had the rent proration because they moved in on the 15th, so they didn't get charged the full month's worth of rent. We had the trash out stuff. So all this is related to putting somebody into the property, minus this 330. We had a bunch of bad weather in Milwaukee, so there's a bunch of trees that fell onto my properties. We had to cut them up and clean it up, and that's what the manager's there for, and thankfully they take care of that stuff. But it's certainly not the most fun to deal with as an owner because this is just the smallest one. There's ones that were $1,000 because a tree fell over and destroyed our porch. So it's something they have to live with. It is what it is. But as you can see here, this is basically all a net zero because at the bottom we have a transfer from 2 of my Holton properties to help carry this thing along, because between fixing the property, the placement fee for the lease and whatnot, it just didn't break even. And that happens, especially on properties that are vacant, obviously. $1,300 came in on this one. A slight plumbing problem, management fees and a distribution, not too bad. Roosevelt's a duplex, didn't do very well. $900 came in, management fees and a distribution. This place is supposed to be bringing in gross $2,400 a month. So obviously that did not happen. Villard, we had $18.99 come in, management fees, split up the late fee and took a distribution. If this was your only duplex, you brought in $1,700 that month, you'd be living large. North 46th, money came in. We had a little bit of issue with this window. Obviously got covered with plywood because something happened, and then they trimmed away some overgrowth. Management fees, split up the late fee and took a distribution. This only took an upper. The lower made a work order but never paid their rent, so that's kind of classic, but that happens sometimes. I mean, this is Milwaukee for you. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. We brought in $2,290. We had basement is flooded again and no hot water. This has happened a couple times with a couple of these properties, and this one in specific has had some issues with water. That's something that we're going to want to look at as we determine what we're going to do with properties moving forward. But anyways, it cost $165 to get everything kind of figured out, and then we took management fees, a late fee, and a distribution. So not too terrible given what happened, but again, not ideal. Another day in paradise. These properties are all new, so they didn't bring any money in and they didn't have any money go out. So 58th, we closed on in the middle of the month. This 58th, they're all in the same street, all in a row. These three, I made a video about them with the winter sometime, doing a tour on the exterior, and a handful of people watched that. So these properties are closed now. We own them, and this month will be the first month of their performance. These are also part of new purchases that we made last month too. These are all those beat up single families that I made a video about recently in my Hawaiian shirt, and they didn't do anything this month because we just picked them up, so nothing happened. Here's a duplex, 36th Street, $899 for both the upper and the lower. Management fees and a distribution. That's what we'd like to see. But its sister property next door to it did not have the same fate, as you can see. I mean, we took in $1,798, but good God, gutters cleaned. We had a bathtub blockage, which turned into a whole thing. We had overhead line blockage, heavy buildup. We had bathtub was clogged. We had pump water from basement because of the storms. We had service both water heaters because of storms. We had rent that came in, obviously. Then more plumbing issue. I mean, this thing was just plumbing galore. Management fees, distribution of $621. So we brought in $1,798. We only saw $621 of that. Pretty impressive. But again, a reason why you need to have more properties. Carmen, nothing came in, nothing came out. Other Carmen, nothing came in. These are all next to each other. As you can see, nothing came in, nothing came out. And we got 9 of them. So there's a bunch of extra spreadsheets that don't have anything on them. But we do own this one, which is just up the street. We brought in $2,048. We took a management fee for the manager and a distribution. Not too shabby. That LLC is done. On to the next one. 14 properties. This one we took in $25,000. We had a whopping $14,000 out, $10,000 in distributions, and that's again not exactly right, but we'll go through each statement so you can really understand what each property did specifically. On 40th here, we had $1,300 come in. We had a repair, cleaning up exterior, remove all items around the yard, tires, cut down trees, etc. So this thing just was dirty, nasty, and this is related to the 16th. If you look on the other statements, all related to those storms too. Water bill, repair, basement water leaking by sink, kitchen cabinet water damage, replace hose bib. Again, not ideal, but stuff happens, and I'd rather catch that than catch it on a water bill where we're getting slammed. And maybe that's what prompted them to look at it. Maybe they saw the water bill and said, oh, something happened. Transferred to Sherman. So this property did not take a distribution, and we just transferred $187 to help out a different property. And you'll see why here shortly, because it was a painful month for that property. We took in $999. This is well below what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be double that. We had a plumbing issue, and it's kind of funny. Again, this is another one where the lower paid, the upper didn't, but they put it in a work order, which is kind of classic. Management fees and a transfer to the property that got slammed. 57th brought in $1,099. There was a trip charge fee for a DNS order. And then we had a management fee and a distribution. Not a distribution to me, but a distribution to the subject property that had all the issues. 56 brought in $1,894. We had an HVAC, no heat, and they replaced the thermocouple and filter, which is awesome. Water bill, which isn't too bad for a duplex, $343. Management fees, and then a transfer again to help out a property in need. 45th brought in $1,875. Management fees, and then normally you would see that as a distribution, but guess where it went? This property yet again. So here we go. Juno brought in 2,049 water bill. A tree fell over and destroyed the entire porch. Cut up the tree, remove, repair porch as needed. 825, boom. I mean, that stuff happens all the time. So you cannot depend on this money, especially starting out, to live your lifestyle, because stuff happens. And guess what? If you're dependent on this to make your car payment, to make your house payment, whatever, and this happens, you're not going to fix it. You're going to be like, oh no, yeah, we'll get to it at some point. You never will, because you have to live off the dollars that are coming in off these properties. So delay that for as long as humanly possible. Management fees, late fee, and a transfer to that property. St. Paul brought in $23.99 management fees, late fee, and 2 transfers, not only to Sherman but also to 45th. So we had properties in need this month. 36 brought in $1,550 management fee and a transfer, and this one actually did take an owner distribution. So this one made $1,114 despite all the odds stacked up against it. And this property, this place was awesome. I bought it for $100,000. Not the best part of town, but it was on a block that was like actually really solid. A lot of homeowners, not a lot of rentals, and the property itself was extremely clean. So I was in love with it, and I picked it up. I'm very happy with it, and we're raising the upper end a little bit, but we're trying to get it stable, and I'm really happy with that purchase, honestly. Roberts brought in nothing, which isn't good. That's actually a full property. Here it is, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. North Sherman took in $7,198. Well, why is that? Because it had all of these transfers from other properties plus the $1,499 that it took in, and we had a whopping $7,078.50 that put this thing $5,500 negative because we had to excavate to expose and repair broken sewer lateral, excavate up to 10 feet down and 7 feet long to replace up to 6 feet of pipe, bed, backfill, and take to grade. Includes PVC pipe fittings for one pipe, does not include restoration of any hard surface. So that means we still have to plant seed and do all this stuff to try to make it look nice again. But that's what it looks like. And we got slammed. This killed all of our profit. This put us way negative. And this is the stuff that can happen. If you're dependent on this property to pay your bills, you're going to be in trouble. You need to do this as a side hustle until it gets to the point where it's self-sustaining. Somehow we still took a distribution even with stuff like this happening, because we try to buy right. And do I always buy right? No, but I try to. I try to buy for the best price possible. I try to do the smartest things possible, but I fall short. But having my job, working my normal day job, has been a huge thing to help me with my peace of mind. When I see a bill like that pop up, I know I'm going to survive. I know I'm still going to be able to pay my bills. I'm not over leveraged personally, so it's all good. But this is what happens. This stuff happens, and this is the first one I've had to deal with, but I can only imagine that this will not be the last one that I deal with. So that's what went wrong with this LLC this month. 76 was a new property, did not take in any money. 45th took in a bunch of expenses, lease fees. This is the one where I also thought there was going to be an issue with the sewer lateral because I was called about it. Turns out they were able to jet it, and they did all this thing. This is all related to that. Pump water out of basement, unclogged laundry sink in basement overflowing, clogging up toilet, camera diagnosis and sewer jetting, a lease fee, and then transfers from other properties to help carry it along. So it was a tough month for plumbing and sewer. Tough month. This property brought in $1,295, and it took home $351 after everything was said and done. I mean, this property was a property that I bought because it's got a 10-foot overhead garage door. It's got a big workshop area, and I wanted to use it at some point, even though it's kind of in a not so great part of town. And I've determined that I don't really need the space right now, so I haven't been using it, and it's kind of just a little bit of a dog. But I'm also giving the guy that's using the commercial space $500 a month. I mean, I could probably rent the space for at least $1,500, I would think, but for now we're just leaving it alone. 29th brought in $1,050, and this is a single family management fees and distribution. Solid place. On to the next one. South 29th is a duplex, $2,090. Had a water bill for $400, which is about normal for a duplex. I usually plan for $450 a month. Management fees, transfer to Carmen, and I'll explain this one. This is a key reason why you have to go through your statements, and it's going to be kind of interesting for those of you who are watching. We had an owner distribution of $915. This is the first Carmen. This is a 4-unit. It brought in $2625. We had a repair for a bathroom socket, garbage and recycling. We have on-site garbage. It just helps keep the property cleaner. It cost me money, and it wouldn't cost me anything, or a lot less maybe, to have some other service or just use the city. But I like it. I think it keeps the property cleaner, and that's okay with me. Installed pipe handrail on front entry for $216. Management fees and a distribution of $2,033. So these properties are literally right next to each other with a shared common parking area. And this one took home $2,033. Now let's scroll. This one had to get transfers to help it. Well, what happened? We brought in rent. We had a new water heater for $1,100. Okay, that happens sometimes. Property inspection, securing it. Okay. And now management fees of $1,263. What the heck happened there? Well, what happened was I reached out to them. I said, hey, is this erroneous, or is this something that is normal, or something? Is there a reason to explain this, I guess, is really what I asked. And they said, oh, no, like we actually made a mistake. And instead of putting my management fee percentage in there, they put 50%, which is usually what we put in for the late fees, 50% of the late fees. Well, they actually put it in for 50% of the management fee. So for the last 2 months, they had been taking 50% management. So they owe us like $2,100 that we're going to get back this month because of that mistake. And it's no big deal. I didn't care. I mean, I cared and I was curious about it, but like, it is what it is. People make mistakes and I'm not going to kill them over that. But those two properties, totally different months, and you can see why. North 14th brought in $1,599 for rent, management fee, and an owner distribution. These single families, again, I am bullish on the single families for me personally. $1,749 came in, management fees, late fee, distribution of $1,588. Roosevelt. Now this is my 4-unit. It had a tough month. We had a bunch of basically interior rehab sort of repairs that happened. We had the common area electric, we had plumbing for a clogged sink. Eviction was getting filed on number 3. We had a broken window repair, we had common area cleaning, we had management fees, we had split up the late fee, and we took $1,497 out of $2,900 that we took in. Not the worst month, but this property is supposed to be doing over $4,000 a month. So we didn't get all the rents, obviously, hence the eviction. And you know, that happens sometimes. 37th is a duplex. Upper paid, lower paid, all good. Management fees, distribution. This is the place that I put $40,000 into the basement, which I'll never get back, but that happens. That was the worst mistake I've ever made. Sherman Boulevard. This is a single family. We brought in the rent. We had a tree. Again, another tree fell down during those storms. They cut it up and removed it from the property for $740. Management fees, split up the late fee, and a hit a distribution of $753. North 55th. This one brought in $2,000 of rental income for this house, $159 the management fee, and the distribution of $1,839. I love single families. Again, $1,897. We had a repair for a metal security door. $327 came out. Management fees of $151 and a distribution of $1,372. 36. We had money come in, management fees, late fees split up, and a distribution. Another single family. Titonia, here's a 4-unit. We brought in, what is it, $2,600 on this 4-unit. Not quite what it's supposed to bring in, but we're working on it. We've slowly been raising these rents, and these properties, we've already raised the gross income for the year over $30,000 just off of $50 here, $75 there, because it is, you know, between the Carmen properties and the Titonia ones, that's 20 units. So it doesn't take a lot to raise that yearly income. And we hope that it's going to pay us out well down the road on a refinance or a sale or whatever it looks like down the road. We got some hip and ridge that was caulked. We had lease fee. We had some repairs for drywall. Smoke detectors were missing. Exposed nail heads on roof. Janitorial expense for the common area cleaning. We had lights in the kitchen that came on, but the fridge and stove are not coming on. They reset the breakers. I mean, $45 for that. Again, you know, people would say, well, all they did was reset the breakers. That's like a $2 job, or that's a $10 job. I could do that for cheaper. Sure, you could, but guess what? I can't be at my normal job then, making my normal money, and I'm gonna go reset a breaker. It just, for me, it doesn't pay. Garbage and recycling, again, on-site garbage, management fees, late fee, and a distribution of $1,000. This Titonia did a lot better, I believe. Yep. The only expenses we had were the janitorial and the management fees, split up the late fee, and $34.28. I mean, between those two properties, again, strength in numbers. This one took home $1,000. This one took home freaking $3,400. So just, they're literally next to each other. They're the same exact brick 4 units. There's literally nothing different between them. And you can see month by month, you can have drastically different outcomes. This is the last Titonia. This one had a janitorial, fire door, no hot water. Again, relit the hot water heater, management fee, and a distribution of $28.60. So all 3 of them had vastly different numbers, and they're literally all in a row, same exact properties next to each other. So, and the last one, 2 properties in this LLC, and it's 6 units total. This one normally does pretty well. This month, not so much. We had a leasing fee for a new tenant. We had to replace some window stuff. So that's Lisbon Store and Screen. They do a great job. And rental income came in, DNS ordered. So this is the parking lot that we had to fill up. $1,300, almost $1,400 to fix that. Part of me just wants to repave the whole thing because this was very much so a patch job. Trip charge to coordinate with the DNS guy, Department of Neighborhood Services, in case you're wondering. Section 8 repairs. So we had to do a bunch of stuff in order for Section 8 to approve of the property. People think Section 8 properties are just like terrible properties, but they do have rules and you do have to abide by them. And it can be, as you can see, very expensive to do that. We had income, we had management fees, and we took $1,488 out of the $3,900 that we brought in that month. So not super strong, but that happens sometimes. And then this one, just down the road, totally different. $36.43 came in. All it was management fees and a transfer to help its sister property out, and we still took $1,902. So when you look at this one, the reason it took in the $39.18 is because it had a transfer of $14.48. Otherwise, it would not have had that much money. It's more of an administrative kind of paperwork thing. But as you can see, a lot of things went wrong this month. Not a lot to talk about outside of the fact that we had a lot of plumbing and obviously the sewer lateral. We had some storms which caused basement issues and backups and whatnot. May is looking pretty good so far, but again, we're pretty early in the month still. A lot can happen, but this is a proof positive that, the reason that you want more than a handful of properties is because the good ones can carry along the bad ones until they also become good, and vice versa. It's my manager and I have talked about it. It's kind of like the properties need to be seasoned for a while. It takes a while for them to start performing like your numbers say they're supposed to. You got to get in there. You got to make up for a lot of the things that people neglected prior to you, hopefully, obviously. And anyways, that's April 2026. We are 4 months down now. We've got 8 months to go. I'm very curious to see what happens. This month should be our biggest month yet. Almost $120,000 is what we're expecting in gross rents, which has been a massive uptick from where we were just 5 months ago. So that's exciting. And obviously we're going to hope for the best. Hopefully no more storms or any crazy things. Some just normal, management fees and distributions would be really great. But as you guys know, every single month something happens. So that's a look on the inside of my portfolio. And the next video is going to be a review of the portfolio. So I'm going to look at all the properties. I'm going to talk to you about all the loans and exactly how that all looks, so you guys can get an idea of how I'm financing all this stuff and what do the back end numbers look like for me as an owner. But if you watch to this point, drop a comment and say, I survived the marathon. I watched this whole thing and I made it to the end. Let me know if you made it to the end. If you made it to the end, the secret code will be, I love properties. If you leave a comment that says I love properties, I will find some way to celebrate you on the next video or something. But anyways, I appreciate all you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.